By the way, these are performance Crocs. I don't recommend working Crocs, but if you're a professional and you've been working Crocs a long time, you have no problem cutting with the acetylene torch, plasma, that kind of stuff. Just be mindful and aware of where your toes are at all times, because, you know, the Crocs don't offer very much protection, to be honest. Today I'm going to be doing the front wheel bearings, pre-pressed assemblies. I'm not going to be pressing in the bearings today, mainly because I don't have a presser that's powerful enough to squish it through, and I don't want to really run the risk with any of the half-assed farmer equipment kind of setups I got going on here. So I'm going to try to go over this video fairly quickly, condensed version. I'm going to post the links to the key points, so you could just click on them if you don't have the patience or you don't want to watch through the whole thing and me jabbering and whatnot. So I'll go over what you're going to need. You will need a 36, it's 36 or 35 axle socket for your main axle. I'm not sure if it's actually 35 or 36. The 36 fits on there good. It's got a little bit of play, but it's not stripping the nut or anything like that. So I'll say you could go with a 35 or 36. I have a 36. I didn't happen to have a 35, but I've had no issue. I've already done the one side. You need a 17 mil. 22 mil, might be a 21 or 22 to take the lug nuts off, but 22 seems to do it. 19 mil, 10 mil, 12 mil, and I didn't think I had the right size in metric, so this is a 15/16. It's got a little bit of play, but it does the job pretty fine. And this is not a crazy difficult job for somebody to do. If you're semi-mechanically inclined, I don't see you having a very hard time with this. It's designed in a way that you could probably do this repair on the side of the highway or the side of the road with a jack and a jack stand. So, okay, we'll get into the actual part of me doing it. So this is a 2013. As far as I know, this repair should be the same for 2013 to 2020, something like that. They're both all the same, even before, maybe 2011 to 2030. Not totally sure, but they're basically the same thing. So first thing we'll do is we'll just pull off the front tires. All right, so first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna wanna pull off your caliper. 17 mil. You might need to give it a little bit of a tap just to break it free. I guess I cranked them on a little too tight the last time I took this off. It's a little easier to work with, this one, because I have recently serviced the brakes. When I say service the brakes, I mean doing what the guys at the Toyota dealership didn't do. I bought this one from a first owner, and it came with Toyota brakes that had been done like 20,000 miles ago or something like that. So it's all Toyota components, but kids, I guess, working in the automotive didn't grease any of the pins and clean out any of the stuff between the shims or anything. So I had sticky brakes, and had to figure out what that was. So I took off all 4 brakes on all 4 sides and cleaned them up. So I've got the caliper kind of loose now. All the bolts are undone. What you want to do is keep yourself some kind of a bungee cord, or whatever you want to call this. Then you're going to need a 10 mil. So I kind of got it, or sorry, that's, you're going to need a 12 mil. And the brake itself, your brake line, it kind of has a mount here that mounts to the spindle. You don't want to take that off. It'll be hard for you to miss it, because you're not going to be able to move much of the brakes. So that's kind of what we're talking about right there. I took this off like a week or 2 ago. In most scenarios, I wouldn't recommend using a strong impact like that, especially if they're old and rusted, but I find the Japanese bolts, they back out pretty easily. So you got your 17 mil now onto these nuts. You could put the open end side on. You could sometimes get the closed end side in. It really depends. I mean, I've just cleared off enough where I'm able to get the open end side. Oh, there we go. So I am able to get the closed end side in there. It's just that it's a little bit tighter because of the grease, or sorry, the rust. So once you've got your whatever side you want to put in, I'll start out with the open end side just to break them off because it's a little bit more level. You could put an extension on, like doing something like this, but I prefer to just use a mallet. So that one's already broken free. Then it doesn't take much. These Toyota bolts seem to stay on, and the last ones I did, it was actually the original wheel bearing. So like I said, these Japanese style bolts, doesn't matter if it's Honda or Toyota or I don't know of any other quality Japanese brands, but if it's Honda or Toyota, I find in general it's pretty easy to break free nuts and bolts compared to say a GM. Like GM's normally, if you're doing this job on a GM, there's 9 out of 10 chance we would have broken at least one bolt, and not even an older GM, maybe a GM that's only 4 or 5 years old. And I'm not a GM hater per se. I was like die-hard GM guy for, I don't know, at least 20 years. I had so many GM V8s, and they started letting me down in the quality department. So I switched over to trying one of these things out, and I've been pretty delighted as far as the quality goes. Okay, so now you have these broken free. You could have done this in either order. I just prefer to do it like this. You got them broken free. You're gonna have to take off the dust cap now. And the dust cap is where your axle nut's gonna be hidden. And for that, I would use small chisels. I wouldn't really try to use anything else. What you're gonna have to do is kind of finesse this thing off without damaging it too much. So I'd wipe it off. There's a sweet spot here between the actual hub itself and the dust cap. So I know I did it the last ones. I kind of just make my way along, breaking it free. If you sit in the same spot for too long, you'll notice you'll just bend it basically. So
see.
now, if you watched what I did there, I kind of just made my way around in a circle and broke off. Don't sit in one spot trying to pound it out, because you'll end up just denting it. There's not really and bending it. It'll be hard to get back on or take off. There's not really a nice way that I find to take these off. You kind of just gotta, if you're patient enough with it, you're not gonna have to order another one. And see, this thing came out pretty much unscathed, so I'm going to be able to just slap that back on with my mallet. So next thing you want to do is you're going to want to pull off your axle nut, and for that I'll use just a pair of pliers. You probably do it if you're really tough, you could do it with your bare hands, but like I said, I prefer to wear gloves on everything I'm doing unless it requires some real tedious parts and screws. So I use my hands too much to have them all damaged up and bent out of shape. So you'll just want to straighten out your cotter pin, if you want to call it a cotter pin, or if you want to call it a split key. So get your split key or your cotter pin out, get it started a bit. And I'm not really going to go into detail with this because this is pretty straightforward stuff. My pin out, save that for later. I put that aside with the other parts. And I got my locking tab here. Okay, so now for the axle nut. Like I said, you could go with a 35 or a 36. In this case, it's a 36. I didn't have a 35. And again, came off like nothing. So now we're exposed. I'll finish backing off these last 2 nuts. You're gonna have to finesse this thing off because it will be kind of stuck and jammed. So you're gonna need a hammer. I recommend wearing safety glasses, especially with this rusty stuff and the metal. So we'll go ahead and do that, and then we'll catch up. An important thing I should mention is, if you can look close, you'll see you don't have a lot of space between your hub itself and where these bolts back out. So you can back these bolts out till the point they're almost about ready to hit the hub, and most of them will actually be undone out of the spindle at that point. So when that happens, that's when you're going to start kind of finessing your bearing off. So that's when I'm going to use the hammer. There might be a tool to get it, like a simpler tool for it, but I prefer the hammer because this whole unit is getting replaced as it is, so I'm not really worried about damaging it. Yeah, so now I'll finesse off that bearing. I had to put my noise cancelers on. That was just a little too loud for me. So like I said, you have to tap that. Give the axle a little bit of tap. There we go. So that's your fully pressed assembly. So by the looks of things, NSK, these are still the original, or maybe replaced at a dealer or something. I think they're NSK is the original, or Koyu or something. Either way, this thing's got almost 300,000 miles on it, and it's pretty good. I just replaced in the other side because I was already got it jacked up in the air, and then they kind of recommend you replace these in pairs for some reason. So what I'll do is I'll save my bearings for both sides, and then at a later date I'll buy the high-end bearings and press the high-end bearings and hubs in. But for the sake of this, I've just got a pre-pressed unit, and I'm just going to slap that in. It's going to be a little bit faster, and for the price point, hey, I'll go with the pre-pressed. So you have to take this off. Don't forget to put it back on. I did that on the last one. I had to redo everything or undo it, which wasn't that bad because everything's already cleaned up. All right, so now you got your bearing exposed. Now, if you were just doing purely the bearing, just your bearing assembly, you could just put it on like this right now and just bolt on your new bearing the same way you took the other one off. But for tire kilometers, I recommend replacing the seal on the inside. So it's the seal that will keep the water and the crud out of your bearing that's on the inside of the spindle. I mean, this one might be perfectly fine, but I ordered the parts, so I'm replacing it. So I'll take you through the way to get to that, because with this particular style, you're not able to just pull the axle out. Some cars, you know, you can finesse it, turn the wheel over and kind of finesse the axle out. I haven't been able to do that with this particular model. So what I'll do is I'll show you the way I do it, where you can remove the spindle, you'll remove the upper ball joint, you'll remove the tie rod, and nicely enough with Toyota, which is another mind-blowing thing, they decided to make a two-piece spindle, which is awesome. So you don't have to replace that lower ball joint. You don't have to move it. You don't have to touch it. You're just going to undo it. And I guess this is just another example of some of the Toyota engineering. It's pretty far advanced. I mean, if you're to look at for the time frame of this vehicle. So you're going to want to take off these. You're going to take off your upper control arm bolt, and you're going to take off your tie rod bolt. And it's kind of just the same thing as what I did with the axle. You're going to have to bend out your cotter pins or your split keys. On this one, there ain't much left of these, so I kind of anticipate, yeah, they're just falling apart. So I kind of anticipate just breaking them off, and I'll secure them with something else that I've got. Maybe some wire or something like that when I go to put them back in. Okay, so got the tie rod off. Like I said, the way I did it isn't necessarily the most recommended, but did the job. If you find that your tie rod's stuck, like the bolt, it's spinning free, You can always just put a pair of vice grips on there. Just be careful of the boot. So take that little bolt out that holds your ABS sensor in place. Unclip your ABS sensor. The clip itself is on the inside. You'll need a flathead or a pick or something like that. So now you got your ABS sensor out of the way. And you can buy yourself a little bit more space to maybe get your impact in there. Regardless, that's going to have to come off if you're going to remove the spindle. If you're not removing the spindle and you don't want to replace the seal in the back, which is probably a terrible idea in my opinion, but if you don't want to, you could just skip all that again and put your bearing back on. Okay, so after I cleared out that what I was talking about, the ABS sensor and the clip, I'm able to fit in the impact, about enough to break it free. I'm pretty much on there. Just be careful if you're not totally squared up on your nut, but I'm looking pretty good. So go back in. So the impact doesn't want to fit off, so for the sake of that, I just broke it free, and then I'll have to hand wrench it off the rest of the way. Now you're gonna have to get your top spindle out of the control arm. It's probably stuck in there. Same thing as the lower. Safety glasses on. Noise canceling earmuffs on. And usually you can whack the spindle. The spindle's a better bet than whacking the control arm, but you might have to, but usually you can give it here. Whoop! There you go. So now you got your spindle pop free. You're still not going to have the space that you need to pull out that axle. Some brands you can finesse the axle and slide it out of there, but this is not particularly one of them. So this is the interesting part about the Toyotas, I find. Almost everything that we've undone here has been either 17 or 19. So they kind of ran the standardized bolt through the whole thing, which is awesome because you're not going through the toolbox. So why is this a 15? Why is this a 13? And everything like that. And simple as that. So if you're wanting to take the spindle out, you're going to get to the point where you figure, when I first started doing it, I didn't notice these bolts. And I figured, well, I'm going to have to knock out that lower ball joint. And I started to undo the ball joint. And then I looked on the bottom. And on the bottom of this spindle, it's going to be 19. You have a bolt here. And another bolt on the exact same side, on the other side. And that basically is your two-piece spindle. I hope we got a good view here because I can't see what the camera's doing. You got a two-piece spindle. Again, bolts come out extremely easily. And just like that, you got your spindle out. And then we'll go on to this, and this is replacing the outer seal. This seal actually looks like it's in really good shape on this side. I don't see actually any damages, but I already ordered Rock Auto seal, so the new seal is going in there, and we'll take you through that now. So you'll have to take out the seal. The seal will go out that way, so you're gonna have to press it inward towards the vehicle. So that's your seal right here. What we're going to do to get that out is I'm just going to use a chisel. This is actually part of the spindle, that lip. Use a chisel, knock it out the way around, clean it out after. By the way, these are performance Crocs. I don't recommend working Crocs, but if you're a professional and you've been working Crocs a long time, you have no problem cutting with the acetylene torch, plasma, that kind of stuff. Just be mindful and aware of where your toes are at all times, because you know the Crocs don't offer very much protection, to be honest. Okay. Also, looks like you can see it pretty good from there. So again, safety glasses on. You're just going to punch out this seal. Work your way around the circle. Yeah, that's it. So that's your outer seal. The seal is actually in pretty good shape. But like I said, I already ordered the parts, and that's that. And there's your ABS sensor. You just want to be mindful of the ABS sensor. Try not to touch it or hit it with anything because it could be sensitive. You could just pull it right out if you wanted to. If you're really building something, try and take it apart. But for the sake of this, I'm just showing you a DIY kind of. All right, so you got it exposed. I would just put a wire brush on a wheel. Kind of just knock off the edges. Just be mindful of when you get close to that ABS sensor. Okay, so now you gotta stick your new seal back in. This is a Federal. Seems Federal's usually pretty good, I find. I use a rubber mallet. You're just gonna wanna line up the edge. This is a pretty straightforward thing. And if you'll look, you'll notice it doesn't press totally evenly. And then I'll kind of just take a flat chisel, not a razor sharp chisel preferably. And you should be able to tell by the sound when you're bottoming out and you're actually hitting. That's a little chisel, a little too small. You should be able to tell by the sound when you're bottoming out and you're actually hitting the spindle itself. And go. And go. And go. It's a little bit more to go. A little bit more tap and taparoo. Okay. So it needs a little bit more. You kind of have to finesse this thing in there. Again, once you hear the loud clunk, you know you're bottoming out. Okay, so got a nice seal there. Your outer. You can see that. Just get it flush to the edge. And I might give it a little wipe, you know. Just on, say, the axle itself, maybe just a bit of crud there, just in case there's some kind of filings or something like that. A little bit of wipe, but now we're ready to go back together. We'll wipe out the inside a bit. I know there's I watched other guys do it, and when I worked in the mechanical shop, guys, they never ever wipe out the inside of here, and never wipe off the sensor. I don't really know why people say that, but what I will do later is I'll show you. I'll put a little strip of black grease, Shell Gaddis. I'll just put a little bit of grease in there so it catches any dust in the future, any kind of brake dust that might land in there, and it just keep it off the sensor. So we'll put it back together. Same way it came off is the same way it's going to go back on. So slide your axle in there. Line up your bolts. Oh man. We'll go grab some there. Put a little bit of grease on those spindle bolts, even though they've held on that long. I just use like a Shell Gaddis. I think it's called Gaddis. It's just that multi-purpose black grease. You could use it for bearings. You could use it for everything. It's kind of what I use on most of the stuff. It's cheap. And wherever my other spindle bolt is, same thing. A little bit of grease on it. So now you get your lower spindle attached. Torque specs, no clue. I'm gonna say 17 Ooga Dooga. I guess that's what kids say now. And followed with, that's not going anywhere. Okay. Now, I'm slide my tie rod end in there. You have to get your upper control arm. If you're by yourself, you don't have anybody to help you with, you can always stick a get yourself a little bit of movement. Try to line it up a little bit to the hole. Just put something in here between the spring. I just use like a piece of angle iron like this. Just be careful. So you kind of just, you've compressed the control arm bushings down a bit. There you go. So now you got enough that you're able to start your bolt on there. Or your nut, sorry. Now it is time to put on the new bearing. So it's a full bearing assembly. This is an SKF. I've had pretty good luck with SKF over the years. It was on clearance sale from Rock Auto's closeout sale. 5-year warranty as opposed to a 2-year warranty. If I would have chose the AC Delco, I couldn't bring myself to buy the AC Delco. So then, I've had good luck with the SKF. I know there's probably some Toyota dude right now being like, bro, you need the Koyu, they're Japan, whatever. Like I said, I'm gonna repress the other bearings. So when you've taken off your other bearing, if your bearing kit doesn't come with it, you'll notice right here along the inside seal, there is an O-ring. So provided your O-ring's still in good shape, you're gonna wanna reuse that O-ring. And the O-ring will sit right in this channel. Just gonna keep the water out because I'm gonna have to touch it up on the other side because I didn't realize that the one I put in didn't come with it. And your bearing will sit in this nice little channel. And then put your bearing back in. It's really the same way your bearing came back out. There's not really much to it. Pretty straightforward. Slide it in place. Hold the back of your CB axle just to stop it from jumping around. And then I just put this in the same way you'd put in like a car tire. Kind of start, tighten one side, tighten the other side, work your way back and forth. Just make sure your axle's sitting in there pretty decently. So, done the same thing, same way you took it off, it's going back on. You're kind of just doing a little bit tighten like a car tire, across side to side. Nothing special to it. Don't forget to put the dust shield on. So this is gonna have to come back off. Luckily I haven't tightened it all the way, and then we're gonna resume on from there. But it just goes to show you, I'm trying to tell you something, I just did the same thing. It's just the second time I've done it on this vehicle. It's all put back together. Got your brake shield on the back, or your rust shield in this case, because there's not much left of it. I'm just gonna tighten it all up, same way you would. I think it's it says 60 foot-pounds of torque for these 4 bolts, but I don't have any kind of torque wrench still back in there, so I'm just gonna do it what I think is 60 foot-pounds. Might be 120. Wouldn't be too concerned about this part. I think it's more the axle nut that the torque specs would really matter. If you have a ratchet wrench, it'd be a lot better too. I don't have a ratchet wrench in metric, so kind of have to do it the slower way like this. Okay, onto the axle nut. Got all this button back up. Put your axle nut in. I just go till it clicks, then I back it off just to make sure I've worked the play out. Then from there, I put 2 lug nuts onto the hub, and then I'll put a breaker bar like this. And what that's just going to allow me to do is torque it to spec. Like I said, I believe it's 172 or 173 foot-pounds for the axle nut. By putting the bar like that, kind of levers it, forces it to be stuck. There we go. One more for good luck. That's not going anywhere. No. And from there, you just go through the same process that I took it all off. Find the slot that fits. Put your split key through, whatever you want to call it, cotter pin. we'll put your dust shield back on. I use a rubber mallet. Okay, tires back on. And I will be ready to go back down, but I got 2 other things, like I said, to fix. What I would say in closing is I highly recommend jack stands. I'm using a jack, and I got jack stands on both sides. And these jack stands are way overkill. They're 12,000 pound jack stands. I don't really take any chances, and because it just scares me working under cars that are on stands. Mainly because I work on rail cars that are on stands for quite some time, so I know it can go wrong. So don't cut any corners when it comes to jacks and that, putting yourself in the line of fire per se, because the $40 you can buy jack stands from Princess Auto or Harbor Freight or any of those stores. Buy yourself a decent set and just be done with it. But don't skimp out is my advice when it comes to your safety side of things, because the last thing you want is to be stuck under this 6,000 pound tank, because I don't think it's 6,000 pounds, but the thing is an absolute tank. It's almost a 3/4 ton truck, it seems like. So don't skimp out. Put your jack stands in, wear your safety glasses, wear your hearing protection. If you're tough, you don't need it. What do I know?